There we go. We're jumping in the Derelict Watcher now. Uh, guess I'll start with intros again. We have here in the top right the pink Zerg from Soli Luna game. I was about to say Soli Luna game. Blah blah blah. We have Nomad. Sorry, that was really horrible. Okay, see if you can do better.
And in the bottom left, we have the blue Protoss, Setheal from the same team.
So, how do you feel about this map?
Honestly, I think it favors Zerg a lot. There's a direct route between them, and Zerglings can run very fast. And there are very few choke points that you can take advantage of. We all know that the Zergling surrounds and surrounds in general are important for Zerg.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. Especially if you look between the natural and the potential third bases. This area is very, very difficult to defend. You end up just kind of in a position where um, you have you have two locations of attack into the bottom right third if you try to go for that, but it's very difficult to position your army so that it can actually protect the natural as well. Not to mention, if you go for the more ramped enclosed third, that again you have to position your army very, very carefully, or you can get Ling run by it very, very easily into the natural. Not to mention just the amount of airspace because your army is positioned kind of in between them, you're not able to protect the main from Mutalisks. So this is a very, very tricky map for that. Also, I'm a little bit surprised that he's not going for the pylon in the wall in there. Now, usually, if you have the pylon in the wall, and yes, it does make you a little bit vulnerable to the Banelings, but on this map in particular, the ramp is very wide. It's very difficult to get that complete wall off.
Yeah, I think he probably goes for another fast army, so he needs the space to move them out without Blink and other. He's apparently blocking the Zerg's third for that, so nice
Yeah,
little move there.
I imagine
Oh,
he's just trying to be annoying with that. I mean, if it survives long enough to actually be used, that's fantastic. But in the meantime, with it not
if you
being
focus
very
on the probe
obvious,
scouting for a bit in the Zerg base, uh, he does this every time. He goes around the hatchery between the drones, and I don't know what league he's in, but I can tell you that from gold up, no drone or probe or ACV ever survives passing through that.
that is true. That is a very, very aggressive move. Um, and you have to have incredibly precise reflexes if you try to, like, if they actually go for the surround to survive that. Can be done. I've seen it happen, but your probe is not going to be very strong after that. Hiding stuff around the map gets a lot more difficult. Now, I'll tell you one other thing too. You notice this time it does have, I think, the similarly early spawning pool, so he might go for the same kind of little link poke that he did last time, but I think the wall up's actually going to be up this time to block it if he tries to go for that. Looks like he's about to hide another pylon too, up there at the top. Now, this is actually really, really important for Protoss to actually pull off. If you don't have anything on the map, there's no way to counterattack. If you've been trapped inside your base, there's no way to uh, get some easy scouting off against something like Mutalisk trying to fly around the corner of the map. It's specifically important, as I think, in PvT more than anything else, be able to watch for those drops coming out. Now, the two Zerglings do pick up on the pylon, so unfortunately that's not going to do much more other than maybe a minor delay of the hash.
I've noticed that the drone count is slightly higher than the probe count, and it should be much higher. So this led to the disaster in the last game. He realized at some point I have very few drones and started droning up, and he should have focused on his army. I hope this doesn't get him again.
Yeah,
I mean, right now Protoss has a lead.
the panic decision making there would definitely get him in a lot of trouble. But I wonder if at this point he's just trying to. Yeah, he's still looking around the map. He did find the other. He found not only the pylon but the probe as well. So it's going to be putting the Protoss in the dark for a lot of this.
Yeah, Josh is showing us a close fight. Here we go. Almost got him. One more, come on.
Nope.
And again.
The shields are going to recharge every single time, just barely. Until that gets speed, then it's over with.
Yes, but I feel the tension. I almost want him to catch him.
So this is the bravest stalker of all time. just running out at 4 Zerglings, attacking them, going straight up into the base, finding a Spine Crawler, and now he's probably going to lose the stock, at least. Maybe take a few Lings with him, but yeah. Oh, Dented Micro there didn't quite work out, and down goes the Stalker.
You made the stalker noise there, right? As he died.
I wasn't trying to do that, but I did. Okay. Well,
we see the Protoss banking the Chrono Boost, in case he needs that in the future. I suspect he's gonna use it for the gateways.
Yeah. If you're not using it for probes at this point, it's probably gonna end up going into the warp gate tech, but I don't think he has that already, does he?
Oh, no. Nomad is the luckiest kid in the world.
No, he does. Never mind.
I
was not watching. I'm not actually sure why he's doing that, to be honest. Unless he's saving up for a specific piece of tech, like Blink, or maybe he wants to put it into his upgrades. He might just be forgetting. Yeah, it is going into the upgrades. Okay, there we go.
It may happen. I think Nomad is the luckiest scouter ever. He's seen the gates in 2 games now. You can see that Overlord just flew over the gates, so...
So, this is not, like, unexpected, and it does make sense, to be honest. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it worked so well last time, go ahead and do it again. But, the funny thing is, this time he doesn't have the proxy pylon. There's a decent amount of defending forces. I think this is going to be a lot harder to make work. And you can see he's adding a little bit more to it this time. We've got Blink coming out, not to mention a Robo as well.
The Zerg army supply is almost 3 times Protoss's. I think if he pushed for it, he would win right now.
Yeah, he might. That wall-in does make things a little bit tricky. A lot of those forces that the Zerglings will not be able to engage. Now, if he traps these Zealots out in the middle of the map, kills them off for free, that's gonna...
I think they're gonna pass right...
Well, yes, they are. That's very... It's actually kind of unlucky for the Protoss, because his defensive forces are kind of thin at the moment. But if he can keep them from engaging... okay, now he's gonna trap the 1 Ling right there. A bunch of extra Zealots coming out. This is not gonna really do much against the Roaches. They can kite them very, very easily. But as long as he's actually paying attention, because here comes the Lings into the third of the Zerg, not to mention back at the front of the Protoss, we have a little bit of engagement going on. Yeah, those Zealots are not going to be able to kill the Roaches, but unfortunately the Roaches are just quite not fast enough to really kite them easily, and they're just going to fall back. Losing the Queen over at the Natural, we have a few Lings trying to engage, but that's a lot of Zealots, and they can't really fight that on their own. For now, he's just trying to keep the Zealots distracted, attacking them every time that they go for the Natural, trying to basically keep it alive as long as he can until his Roaches get there, and it looks like he's actually going to successfully hold this. Just barely.
This is definitely a mistake.
Really did take a lot of damage on that, and it could die later, but more than likely, I don't think the Protoss is going to be able to get there in time, even if he did try to go for that. There's no... Without the proxy pylon somewhere out on the map, there's just no way. Now we have chrono-boosted Immortals coming out here. Losing a chunk of your army like that, if you are going to go for a push, is going to make this very, very, very tight. It's going to be very tough to get that in. And unfortunately, that may be his only option, just because of how much time has gone by. He hasn't gone really up to Colossus tech. He has no area of effect damage that he can actually put onto the army of the Zerg. So if much time goes past here, it's going to get pretty tough to deal with those Hydras coming out.
Yeah, I think this was not a good decision, losing all the army right now.
Engagement out in the middle of the map. No way for Force Field to do anything here, and the Protoss realizes that, trying to engage this army a little bit here, but you can see the Zealots are now out of the picture. Trying to Force Field a little bit of it actually doesn't trap anything. That hurts. Basically losing that energy, not really accomplishing anything with it. Not to mention the attack attempt has been pretty much scouted and will be completely thwarted. There's a lot of units coming out on top of this, and now the Protoss pretty much has to do this annoying dance of sorts where you just kind of have to go for Colossus and hope they don't kill you before you get them.
I've seen Protoss dealing with Zerg very well with force fields. Not having drop tech forces them to go Muta. So, by the time they get an Overseer dropping a couple of Hydras in your base, you will already have enough the Protoss Death Ball. So I would focus on definitely sentries at the moment, because he can turtle on them and get a lot of tech out, get a lot of army out.
The sentries they're a tricky thing. You really, at this point, you don't want to be building too much more, because if you do, then that cuts into the gas that you need for the Colossus. If you don't have enough Colossus, then you can't deal enough damage to the Hydras, and they just run gateway armies over very, very fast. On the other hand, without enough of the force fields, can't slice that army into pieces. They can just run forward and kill off your Colossus if you don't engage at exactly the perfect position. So this is very much a catch-22, and he's really, really just kind of hoping the Zerg just leaves him alone for a bit. Now, the sentries do have a lot of energy on them. They're getting kind of out of position, though, and it does leave his base a little bit vulnerable. It looks like we have a Spire coming out, so going to see the usual Jaedong muted transition most likely. I have a feeling that's kind of what the Zerg is aiming for here. But the armies have seen each other now. We've an engagement coming. This is much more of a tight area. Force field's going to be very strong here. Unfortunately, most of the army is still able to engage, so he's not really getting a huge benefit from that. Trying to draw him further in, go for more force fields. At this point, these are more of escape force fields. He's like, okay, leave me alone. I'm going to run away now. And that's really buying him the time to do that. You can see the army's gotten a bit thin. There's a lot of stalkers backing this up, though. So it still has a decent amount of firepower behind it. But again, he's got that Colossus. He's got range. And at this point, he's really just trying to buy time.
Building stalkers at this time, specifically while blindly countering mutas, it's great. It should be an interesting game.
It's actually a little bit tricky because, as I said, he's got the double robo, so he could be going for 2 Colossus and supporting so many. Oh, anyway, focusing on the battle right here. Colossus is able to do a lot of damage. It does go down, but unfortunately, there's actually just not enough army to deal with the rest. Even with the aggressive blink forward, is able to kill a lot of the army right there, and unfortunately, is not able to really deal with it there. I wonder if charging forward onto Colossus might have been a little bit of the mistake there, because it wasn't really adding that much damage, and getting that close into the rest of the Protoss army must have been, you take a lot of damage from doing that, and now we have a little bit of an awkward situation.
Yeah, Colossus damage needs to be tanked with something. He should have split his units. That was a mistake. I mean, he either goes for the Colossus, which he did, but didn't have enough units to back it up, or he splits his units, and that way the Colossus attacks slow and centered only one location are less effective. I mean, the specific power of Zerg lying in the surrounds was not used there.
So it looks like Nomad here is going to be grabbing those Corruptors to try and deal with the Colossus. It's going to be tricky. There's so much anti-air on the ground here. A lot of those are probably just going to get sniped before they can do much. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of Colossus, so there isn't really much to be gained by doing that. If you can keep them alive long enough and go for Broodlords, though, there might be something to that.
With the right positioning, I think those Corruptors can do a lot of work.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to be able to keep the Colossus. I'm just wondering, will the rest of the army deal with the Stalkers? They will if they engage by themselves. There's no force fields to help out with that. Yeah, it's a little bit of a close situation right there.
We've seen for a moment that Protoss had the supply lead. Now he's lost it, but compared to the last fight,
big upgrade difference. No armor upgrades at all for the Protoss.
I've noticed, yes.
That could do it. That makes your army so much more fragile. If he's not able to get really good force fields and cut the army in half, well, that doesn't help.
Well,
no counterattack opportunity with the Warpers in there. He wants to engage in this space, and he's hallucinating a couple losses, probably hoping he tries to go for the focus on that. And he is actually focusing down the wrong losses. That's not... Yes. Okay, looks like it's about to hit this one. There's a lot of reinforcements coming out this way. I will mention that there is a slight advantage for the Zerg in the positioning here, just in the distance from his base. And unfortunately, those upgrades are pretty much the only story here. Just not able to kill the Zerg units fast enough, and now he's losing everything. He's going to lose the sentries. He's going to lose at least one immortal, and all that gas gone. Ooh, it's going to be really tough to come back from that. It's going to really, really needs the Zerg to badly overextend right here. Zerg really wants to divide the Protoss forces in half right here, do as much damage as he can. He can kill him, but really just needs to get to that base. He needs to cut that economy down and get some of that gas income. And you can see with that Warping coming in on top of this, things... Oh, okay. Yeah, the upgrade is too much. Most likely there's reinforcements coming across the map. Not to mention the dramatic difference in supply at this point. It's going to get very, very difficult for the another process about that. I don't know. I'm not seeing any way to come back in this situation.
This is amazing. Such a back and forth game. Could have gone either way on several occasions, and now it seems that
Yeah,
Zerg
honestly,
has taken the hang of things. Let's see how he does it.
it did look like for a moment there that with the losing that army that the Zerg might be in some trouble. But he's pretty much maxed. Protoss is under 100 supply. Was for a moment there. That if you fall under 100 supply at this stage of the game, it's usually yeah. Mouth Celts can edge entirely on their own, die pretty much without doing any damage, and there's the GG from Setheal.
We're going to the third game.
Oh, very nice. 2 show matches in a row that weren't 2-0s. That makes me happy. Unfortunately, Leanne Seed and CRQ, your match might be a little delayed. I do apologize about that. But